Shut up and sit down.
All right. Hello, everyone. It has been a while since 323 Weekly has happened. Gotta go back to late last season. I didn't do any playoff shows. Got busy around that time, but excited to be back here for 323 Weekly as we jump into the season. And let's go ahead and take a look at what we have come to you here today. Episode 1, Season 11 on 323 Weekly. Obviously, first week, primary thing, getting those initial tier lists out. Of course, I like to think of the week 0 tier list as the most incorrect tier list. So, yeah, wait, what do you mean I'm still on the starting soon screen? I don't believe I'm still on the starting soon screen. Not according to my screen. Anyway, but with that, we will, Anyway, with that, we are jumping in also to the what to watch for the first week. As always, I mean, just keep this in mind. Like, this first initial ranking is certainly going to always be the most inaccurate. There's always going to be one or two teams that I know nothing about because they're completely new to NGS, and they end up doing great. There's going to be some roster ad who is someone who's never played in NGS before, who's going to be a star and carry their team's success. We saw a bit of that a couple teams last season. So, with all that in mind, don't take these too seriously. In fact, episode 2, after week 1, in addition to the usual spiel, I'm going to actually look back at the initial rankings from Season 10 and show how they turned out. Just to show you, like, don't take this too seriously too early on. Mainly the big thing, of course, that I like to do here is the simulations, but we're not doing that yet because no games have been played. So, how is this going to work? Well, same tier list as last season. Nothing truly new under the sun. So, some general rules just for the first week. It goes away after that, but you're going to see me rank teams such that the sum total of teams in S, A, B, and C matches the sum total of teams in C, D, and E. That is, imagine a line halfway across this. I'm going to try to put half the teams above, half the teams below. Some things to note is that this ranking is mostly based off history. Yeah, I've done a lot of, I spent a lot of time getting stats of like Storm League ranks for teams, of MMR for teams, from Heroes Profile, etc. But that doesn't really come into play too much. Aura, you know very well that I have mature audiences on, so I can say fuck as much as I want to. Which reminds me, the word of the day is fuck. Fuck. It's a great word, incredibly versatile. It's just so I can say fuck as much as I want to. Also, keep in mind, and I'm moving my head out of the way for a second, S and E are just not really going to be used by me this week. So here's how you should think of this. This is almost like a probabilistic model. So first, and this will especially be true when I get to simulations. If you're the kind of person who hears that there's a 30% chance of rain, and you think that means it's not gonna rain, this show is probably not for you, right? Like, if there's a 30% chance of rain, that's a pretty good chance of rain. That's a good enough chance of rain to warrant the minimal effort to bring an umbrella, right? So what I want you to think of this tier list as is more like kind of like probabilistic of like how likely I think that team is to be able to win the division. And of course, no one early on is going to be a heavy favorite in S, and no one is going to. Well, that's why this channel is that is actually one of the main reasons why I do this on my channel, Aura, rather than the NGS channel. Is just that way. It's hard for me to mind my language, and I realize that as a 32-year-old adult, that's pathetic. But whatever. Anyway, and E is like they're just not gonna win, and that no one has no chance at the beginning of the season, right? So I'm going to pretty much avoid S and E. You're mostly going to see B and C. This is, I honestly don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty here. A is, I have a pretty good, I'd be surprised if they didn't do well. And D, I'd be surprised if they ended up being a challenger. Of course, there have been teams I put in D in the initial ranking who did very well last season. So, with that, again, initial rankings, the point is, all of this is bullshit. It's stupid. Why are you spending your time here? With that glowing endorsement of my own show, let's go ahead and jump into the first of our divisions. And generally, we work our way top down, starting with the Storm division. So Storm division, we're going to... Oh, I don't want to move that. I want to move my head. All right. So Storm division is largely, pretty good this season. Obviously, we have some. I mean, not even just like Heroes Hype CCL teams here. We have actually like a lot of players who were in HGC back when HGC was a thing. RIP HGC. And that's really exciting. I mean, you got Justing and Bug here on Wildheart Gaming, and let's just go ahead and not even try to pretend that this is going to be in any way a surprise. Seeing Wildheart Gaming with Justing and Buds on the team, they're up there, right? They're not really struggling too hard to be in that A tier. Frankly, could I put them in S tier? Yeah, but I just don't really do it. I should note that there was a Wildheart Gaming last season. That is not the same Wildheart Gaming, obviously, here. From there, another team with a few HGC and CCL players, that's TF Zugrugs. This is their icon. I'm actually going to go ahead and drop them right up at A as well. I'm going to put Wildheart, like, kind of here, if I can get away with that. Like I said, I'm not going to put S, but, like, let me cheat a little. Like, I'm thinking here, but for now, I'm going to keep them here. From there, Heavy Impact are champions from last season, as they were at the time known as Chili Mountain. Chili Mountain, of course, then joined CCL, had a separate team. They also have an academy team now. So this was Chili Mountain in Season 10, if you followed Storm Division then. Because the competition is stiffer up at the top, they're gonna start at B, right? Respectable, very respectable. I have a lot of faith in this team, but again, like, I mean, these two teams actually have like a lot of HGC pros there. Gonna throw in ACA, got some really good players in there as well. Onto the B tier also. I didn't put them in S tier, Tlem. I just said I wanted to, and there's a difference. Like, for instance, I want to chug this beer right now, and I'm not. I'm going to take a nice gentlemanly sip. Ah, gentlemanly, you see? Yeah, this is an ASMR stream now, everyone. I hope everyone is having a good day. We're not gonna do that again. All right, so from there, typically I'm not gonna work my way top down here, but I am just gonna do it for Storm Division. When I looked at the rest of the teams, I do think there's a gap from B to C, but I am still gonna put Regen and Chili Mountain Academy down at C. Wouldn't be surprised if they could move up into the B tier, into that top 4. I'd be pretty surprised if either of these teams managed to make top 2. We'll see. From there, I'm gonna put Fool's Gambit, which is the team that just recently qualified, and One Direction, which I love that name. That is just, I mean, great name. Down at the bottom, and what I'm about to say, I don't want to detract from what they did, but if you look at the qualifiers that occurred, kind of these two qualifiers were more or less the easiest that were won, and so that does affect the result. Should note, every game in the Storm Division, takes place on the official twitch.tv/Nexus Gaming Series. You're going to get some great casters there. You're going to see Trsg, you're going to see Jinxie Cat, you're going to see Crushinator. You're going to see people who aren't me. Because frankly, I'm a little off my game. I'm a little rusty. I haven't been doing the best at casting lately, but certainly, you got Trsg, right? The guy did HGC. It's just absolutely wonderful caster. Love Jinxie Cat as well. She's just fantastic. Crushinator. You're going to see a whole bunch of really good people doing that. So definitely check it out. Those will... Thank you for the Prime sub, Moist Winners. Enjoy the Stewart emote. Where's the caster tier list? Well, let me just go ahead. We'll just do a quick little caster tier list. All right, so we're going to put me down here at E, right? And then what we're going to do is just super quick. We're going to put everyone else up at S tier. And I do think that that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. I feel that's reflective of the situation. With that, oh, Wedge, you're not even on the tier list. Come on. Or not Wedge, sorry. Also Wedge. Sorry, Weenus. All you W names sound the same. Wedge hates me now. Anyway, all right. So now, I am not the only one bringing you tier lists tonight. That's right. We had a few people send in some tier lists. One of them, Shredded Wind, coming at you from Anti-Clown Association. Man, gotta love these spelling underline of shame showing up in the middle of a broadcast. That's pretty solid. Actually pretty similar to me, truth be told. The only difference is he had the stones, the cojones, to put Wildheart up at S initially, and then moved Heavy Impact up to A. And I can't disagree with this list because it's pretty much exactly the same as my list, just with little shreds of difference. So excited to see Storm Division this season, and excited to just see this little mini resurgence that we're having in high level competitive HOTS. So that's pretty exciting. All right, moving on to now the Heroic Division, which historically has been the top amateur division in NGS. And right out of the gate, the biggest change is, and I believe this is the first time this has happened, but someone correct me if I'm wrong on this. I'm sure someone will. Is that this time, Heroic, for the first time ever, is a double round-robin division. Which means there's only 7 teams. There's so fewer teams. There's every team playing each other twice. That adds a lot of chaos, and that adds an interesting effect. So, like in A West last season, Fancy Flightless Foul got off to a bit of a slower start, and Regen Retro got off to a pretty fast start. But when you look at the end of the season, you're going to see that Regen Retro did not make playoffs. Fancy Flightless Foul did make playoffs, and had a pretty good season. Got some really impressive wins at the end. So this double round robin kind of makes the division a bit more dynamic, a bit more unpredictable. With that said, though, I'm going to go ahead, especially with the addition of Breakwood today, not changing my opinion at all on the tier list, although making me more confident in it. I'm going to go ahead and drop Phoenix Rising Esports, PR1, I believe is the abbreviation they're using, right up at that A slot. This is kind of the flagship team now for Phoenix Rising, who I believe now has 28 teams in NGS. No, they have, I think, actually 11, which is still a really good showing. No, it's not Salt. I'm joking around. Come on. I'm actually happy with how the org has grown. I'm just trying to be funny and failing miserably as everyone just stares at me wondering what they're doing with their lives. Anyway, from there, this is where it got kind of hard to rank the teams. So the top several teams in Heroic really have split up. Either they've gone on to Storm Division or they've done some other community leagues or something. And there's kind of this power gap, I would say, from Heroic last season to this season. And so teams that had finished towards the lower part, teams like, for example, hang on, I'm pulling up my show notes here. Teams like Ripers, for example, who finished to the lower half of Heroic. In fact, Team Ripers finishing 10th place. They can still kind of slot in here to this to this B tier, where I think they're probably going to have an okay season. I would slot them below right now Wildheart Omega, who I think had some moments in the qualifiers, but just didn't quite have it there. I should note another reason I have Phoenix Rising over Wildheart is there's actually a transitive win. Phoenix Rising beat Fool's Gambit, who beat Wildheart Omega. So there it is. From there, with only a few other teams, I don't really know much about the current players on Los Popochas team. They have done some Heroes Lounge stuff, and if I remember, like they've kind of been, at least to my memory, like my team has played them and won. Now, obviously, they have very different players now, so what will that be? By the way, some of these team logos, I actually went to the effort to crop them out because I think they look smoother. From there, you may not recognize the name Cryx Tempest, but you may recognize it if I told you that they are also Tainted Orphans. That's right, Tainted Orphans have returned, and my assumption is that somebody has made them name change. In either case, it is Tainted Orphans. Babymaker's back from a really good showing in Division A last season, and Fancy Flightless Fowl also. So the way I kind of have these tiers set up is there's a little bit of a theme to it. Phoenix Rising right now, I think, does belong in the top tier. You throw in the two Heroic teams that finished low in Heroic, admittedly, but they at least have that experience of playing in Heroic. You have the teams from A moving up. Cryx Tempest moving up after a season gap. And then from there, you have Los Popochas team, and this is largely influenced by the fact that they were added to Heroic somewhat at the last minute. So, that's where I'm at here. Match to watch. At the time I made this slide and did my last pass about 2 hours ago, hadn't been scheduled yet, but I'm very interested to see this Baby Makers versus Wildheart Omega match to see if that Heroic experience is going to make a difference, or if the rising stars from these, A moving up teams is going to make a splash. We'll find out. Nobody submitted a tier list for Heroic, so we're going to move on to Nexus, which is the new league in between Heroic and A. Has a lot of teams that played in A last season and moved up. Has a few other teams, maybe that played in B or coming into NGS for the first time. There's one team in here that I know absolutely nothing about. I do have a Nightbot here, so do be nice. Hang on, I have to pull up my show notes, and I only have so much screen real estate to work with. Well, I just don't like caps locks because I am not 87 years old using the internet, and that distinction kind of matters. Hang on. Why is it not switching my show notes over? There we go. All right. So, right out of the gate, let's talk about some of these teams moving in from Division A. Of course, we're going to start by talking about Team Happy Cloud. Team Happy Cloud won Division A East. Oh, that is true. That is a fair point. There is a team here who's in all caps. Anyway, they won A East, and for that reason, I'm going to slot them up here. I have noticed they haven't been doing great in Heroes Lounge this season, but with Heroes Lounge, there's a lot of teams that play subs, a lot of teams that do weird stuff there, so I'm not really putting too much stock in that. Gonna slot in Gilly Shark, who also top of A last season. Actually, I think, if I remember right, finished first place in the regular season, but lost to THC in the A East Finals. So I'm going to go ahead and slot them in up at the top. From there, let's talk a bit actually about our newer teams. So we have Vendetta, and for now I'm slotting these in at C, and I'll explain why in a second. We have Vendetta. We have Spooky Booky Boys, who don't have a logo, so you just get letters. Hippity Hoppity, get off my property. Hippity Hoppity Bros. And Phoenix Rising Ruby, not really they're a new team, but they have people who've been around. Phoenix Rising Ruby and Legal. So let's focus on these three for a second. Don't really know much about them. Haven't been able to find out much about them, so a lot of uncertainty here. I'm going to go ahead and leave them sitting at C. Again, the idea of B and C being that there's just not a lot to go with. From there, let's go ahead and let's throw in Bronze 6, Caffeinated Knights, and I Just Love Breadman, a.k.a. I like my bread boiled, not fried, which is a team that has done very well in Heroes Lounge for a while now. Now moving into the real league, as I like to call it. I mean, not to throw any shade, but, well, actually, yeah. Anyway, I think all these teams are going to do well. Caffeinated Knights was in A East last term and had a good, or last season, had a good showing. I think they were one of the better teams in what was a very, very competitive A East. I think all these teams belong up here. Bronze 6, of course, having a very good showing, I would say, in some of the off-season stuff that I saw. Phoenix Rising Ruby, let's just, real quick, let's do some math. I said I have to have the same number of teams in SAB combined as I have in CDE, and so these two have to go below in CDE. I'm going to go ahead and throw Ruby in C, and I have former teammates there. I actually do think they're a good team. I just don't know how well they'll necessarily match up with some of these higher teams. And then Zircon, this is admittedly where I wasn't entirely sure, and I could just be missing something very obvious here. But I wasn't entirely sure, looking at their roster, what happened. I should note, when we do our retrospective next week, I will go back to where I said the same thing about Beef Boys and Fancy Flightless Fowl, both of whom made playoffs. So, things can go awry. I would suspect this division ends up being very competitive, though. Last season, A East and was extremely competitive. There was a point heading into the last week where between 3rd place and 10th place or 9th place, there were only 2 points separating the teams between 3rd and 9th. That was arguably the most competitive division I can remember in NGS history. I think this has that kind of makeup where that could happen. Last I checked, didn't have a caster yet, but I really want to watch this Caffeinated Knights bread game. Probably have to watch the replay because I am having a scrim at that time, but I think this will help kind of show the power level of both teams, and if they're equal, if one puts away the other, if Caffeinated Knights wins going away or bread wins going away, that team immediately in my mind moves up to A. If it's close, these could still both be A teams, but I'd probably hold them down at B for the next week. Yeah, AE is also going to be competitive. We're going to get to that. But we do have a Nexus tier list. This is coming to you from Veggies, from Gilly Shark. So, Veggies, very big on Bronze 6. Actually, bigger than I am. Also, not as big on Gilly Shark, their own team. Has Hippity Hoppity, one of those new teams. Again, I know nothing about them. Maybe they know something about them, and that's why they're putting them up in A. But otherwise, pretty similar makeup. Have Caffeinated Knights lower than I do, I should note. But really big on Bronze 6. So we'll see what happens there. Bronze 6 is one of those teams that has really just what they're doing in terms of how rapidly they've gotten better. I think it certainly warrants praise. And so certainly if they've continued that trajectory, I would say this is not unreasonable. All right. Dropping down to A East. Again, a division I think is going to be pretty competitive. So let me pull up my notes for that. So first, with A East, should note Sky 5 was Wasn't heroic last season, ended up withdrawing. Now moving back down to A East, which last time they were here, I believe they won A. I actually go ahead and slot them in at the A tier. And I'm going to throw in 2 other teams at you. Phoenix Rising Xanthite, which was Roomba rotations last season. And I'm also going to go ahead and throw at you Dark Allegiance, which was Deathweb last season. Deathweb was, I should note, in B Southeast, but kind of ran away with the division, and I think just got caught out, maybe being a little cocky in the B Southeast finals, losing to Hollow Wife. So, you know, I think they're going to do that. Sky 5 did have a lot of roster changes in the interim. That is correct. But I actually, and I'm trying to pull up my notes here. Because again, there's 140 teams, everyone. Bear with me. I need notes. Sorry, there's 145 teams. Bear with me. I do need my notes. So Sky 5 did have a number of roster changes. Specifically, they added Liddell and Silver, so it's AG, Silver, AG, but it's just Silver because AG is the chemical formula for silver. I actually did. From what I saw, it was almost entirely Deathweb. If that has changed, then I'm wrong. But anyway, so they added 2 players from Tiny Dancers. I still think the core roster there for Sky 5 is pretty good. And I've always looked up to Liddell and Silver. I think they're really good players. So I think they'll actually be able to gel fairly well there. So if anything, that actually made me more confident. Even though Tiny Dancers finished 8th last season, I think there's enough there that could help out. It's hard to keep track of all the teams, so bear with me. From there... Oh, sorry, no. I did not have Xanthite and Dark Allegiance up here. My bad. I had them down here. Sorry, I accidentally was looking at the wrong set of notes I have. It'll make sense in a second, I swear. Alright. No, I was not just copying you, Key. Sorry. No, I have Xanthite down at B. I still think they can make the move. They're a good team. Anyway, Diamond... Another team moving up from B. I do slot them in at the B tier because some of the roster changes they made have worked out. See, I have nothing against idioms. It was my teammate who didn't like idioms. That's not my fault. Maybe you're just unlikable. Have you considered that? Oh, we got a kitten cam. There she is. She's a sleepy girl. That's a Chloe. She's very sleepy. She's unhappy that the overhead lights are on. It's too bright. Anyway. From there, Tricky Gooses returns. I actually slot them in at B. I think they're a team that does a lot of things that can, if you're not really prepared to deal with them, you're going to have a tough time. Now, if you can counter out their draft, if you can plan accordingly, yeah, you can beat them, certainly. But from there, hang on, the other team I slotted in is Baby on Board at A, and this is in the top half. So a lot of these players were on Careless Badgers last season, who, if I remember correctly, were running about 3rd and pretty much locked for the playoffs up until they withdrew from the season. A lot of those players back. Some of them have played in Heroes Lounge in the offseason, have done well. I'm going to go ahead and slot them in at A. From there, I have a bunch of returning A teams left over. I have Beef Boys, slotting them in at C. I have Regen Phoenix, slotting them in at C. They have barely missed playoffs both the last 2 seasons. We'll see if they can turn that around. I think it'll be close. Boogan Forever moving up. I really like Boogan Forever. I want to be clear. I really like those guys. They're great guys. They've really improved a lot in last season. They team fight very well, but I still have enough concerns about their macro that I did drop them down at D. But I'm kind of like here with them. If that has significantly improved, then certainly that can change. Running Wild struggled greatly in A West last season. Had some roster changes. I heard they're doing better, but it's one of those, I'm not from Missouri, but I still need you to show me. And then So this is where I have to admit I don't know what to do with dead game players. So dead game players is a new team. They don't have any NGS history. And when I looked at both their MMR and their Storm League ranks, it was good data in that they had a lot of games reported, and it was significantly lower than every other A team. And I don't know if that is... Well, I mean, sure, they played in a few of the qualifiers, but, I mean, there was a D team that played in one of the qualifiers. Like, playing in the qualifiers doesn't mean anything to me, I guess. So, I mean, I'm very open to being shown, but just based on that stats, I initially put them down at D. But again, the teams that I know nothing about have much more ground, or much more ability to climb rapidly. And to that end, and I know this seems like a weird game to pick when I have like Sky 5 in my top tier and dead game players in my bottom, I'm interested to see how this Sky 5 roster gels with the 2 additions from Tiny Dancers, especially when those 2 players really like to do like a lot of double tank stuff, which is a different style than Sky 5 used to play. And dead game players. That one is Sparhawk X, twitch.tv Sparhawk X. That is Wednesday at 9 Eastern. Check that one out. That game is scheduled and casted. With that, throwing it over. If you don't like my tier list, maybe you'll like Keys. Here is Key from Tricky Gooses. Kind of similar. He has Baby on board lower than I do. He has dead game players up here. But fairly similar. All right. So with that, jumping over to A West, another double round robin division, and a lot of B teams moving up, and in fact a C team moving up here. First, the new team that I'm just uncertain about. I put Manaval down at C, just out of I don't know anything about them, haven't been able to find anything else out about them, so that's where I have them. Nature's Cure, exact same situation, they're down at C. From there, I decided to think about which 2 teams do I think will be the best here. And that's going to be, in my mind, at least for now, Minion Miners with their A West experience. I think they really started to figure things out by the end of last season. They were playing really well. And then I have boosted Bonobos up here. A few players from around a few different NGS teams. You got Mega Muffin in there, although now he's Muffin with the tilde over the N. So it's Muffinia, I guess. But either way, I have those 2 up at A. From there, I am putting the formerly known as Garrulous Gabberlunzies, GG, now match ready, and Better Than Bots. I put them in at C, and I did give Lurk Patrol because they have actually played in A before, albeit you have to go back a bit. Went ahead and put them in at B tier. Again, with the double round robins, you can get a lot of movement, especially trends early in the season may not play out. Garrulous Gabberlunzies was one of those teams that, because they had no match history and they were seeded largely based off their MMR, it's one of those things like you can't really predict how good they're going to be. And they were, in terms of MMR, a C team, but obviously didn't play like it. Pretty much dominated. They only dropped 1 map in the regular season. They were really, really strong. I always like to set Minion Miners up for disappointment, Himmy. You know this. Very interested to see, just to get a look at Manaval, as well as how match ready adjusts to playing in A now. Last I checked, it wasn't scheduled yet. Maybe it is now, but this is a week 1 match. Hope to see it. Speaking of Muffin, who is with boosted Bonobos, here is their tier list. So they actually have Minion Miners at S. So if you think you're going to disappoint me, Himmy, just wait till you disappoint Muffin. Maybe Muffin will just like throw the game to make his tier list look better. Who knows? Anyway, kind of a similar thing, although interesting that he has Manaval up here at A. I was pretty surprised by that. So maybe there's some inside information that I just don't have. We'll see. From there, jumping now to B Northeast. So once again with B, 3 division split. This I had a hard time ranking. So first, I just want to note one thing that the placement committee did. And I don't know if they did it intentionally to tilt me or to break my brain, but in either case, notice there's a lot of teams that were in B Southeast that are now in B Northeast. The only team that's like still in Northeast is Regen Ghost. When we get to B Southeast, like a bunch of B Northeast teams from Season 10 are going to be in Southeast. So there's a lot of switchovers. And what I'm trying to say is I hate you. Anyway, it's just, I assume it wasn't intentional, but it is funny how it worked out. Anyway, let's go with first the champion of B Southeast, and in fact B East, most of the team. Obviously, they've had some roster changes, but I am still going to put Die for Cat Girls up at A. Amateur Opponents, who's had a pretty good offseason, also slotting in at A. 2 teams that are returning. They had some really close sets there. I expect that to continue. I think those 2 teams right now are my favorite in the league. From now, let's talk about some of the other teams that I think either they're coming back after having not played for a bit, or they've made enough improvements that I really feel comfortable slotting them in at the B tier. I'm going to start with Uncomfortably Numb. Uncomfortably Numb took a season off. It feels like they've played every other season. Uncomfortably Numb, I remember back in Season 9, struggled a bit. We're kind of a mid to low tier team, but then they got back THC Spectre, who is a really good player. I think had internet issues. And at that point, they became a serious threat and finished the season out really strong. If they have THC Spectre, I mean, they could move up to A pretty quickly. It's just one of those, like, I need to see the team, like, actually field their roster first. Probius, really good offseason. If I remember right, they had a pretty nice roster change as well in there. So, an addition I would add. Have them slotted in at B. From there, controversial one. I'm going to throw in Regen Ghost. Now, I know they did not make playoffs last season in B Northeast, but I have scrimmed them. I think they've improved greatly. They were not a bad team last season, but where they struggled often, it felt like, was finishing games. I can tell you my team Legal last season, we 2-0'd them. It should have been an 0-2 loss. And it was like both games had these like crazy core defenses that we came back from. From what I have seen, they're cleaning that up. I'm thinking they're going to be a playoff team here. Kind of a mid-tier playoff team, I think, but we'll see. From there, going to slot in a few teams that I just don't know much about, whether that's because they're new teams or any other reason. So Hold My Cho, which actually, if I remember right, is in fact a lot of players from a previous team. Hang on. Consulting the notes once again. No, never mind. Hold My Cho is a new team. I was wrong. Hold My Cho is a new team. Gonna go ahead and throw in Kira's hit list in there. Same thing, although I will note that Kira's hit list has a player by the name of Starfox, Starfox64. He's been around NGS a while, has, I believe, taken some time off. Very, very strong player. Could put the team on, again, not knowing anything about the other players, that could be, for all I know, just a sleeper, like, gonna run away with it. I do know Starfox himself has the skills for that. It just depends on what the rest of the team has. Yellow Owls, I know nothing about, and admittedly, the data that exists on this team is very bad. It's there's not much data there at all, so can't really say much about them. Talking about a couple teams moving up from C, we have Durotan's Couch. I love Durotan's Couch. This team has been around since Season 1. They were Jimmy's Got a Gun in Season 1. They were in my division. I should note my team beat them. Not anything worth mentioning. But anyway. But they were in C last season and finished towards the lower half of C. And they added Goliath, who's a good player, but I don't know if that's enough. And I was kind of surprised. So I do have to drop them in at D. Nexus Cats, another team moving up. A team that has a very good improvement-oriented attitude. They've quickly moved up from D to C to B. I think they'll have a little bit more trouble here because I think this division is pretty strong. This time around, like last season, B Northeast, I think, is stronger than B Southeast. And I stand by that last season in terms of a top-to-bottom perspective. From there, 2 calculated to throw. This one I bounced back and forth, but I ended up slotting them in at B, mainly because of math. I should note a couple former teammates on there as well, Coughlin and Kobo from Legal, so I think that'll boost the team up quite a bit. Team Gobby Legs, I ended up slotting down here at D, and then I kind of saw that they've actually been doing pretty well in Heroes Lounge. They're currently second in Division 2. That kind of made me bump them up to C, so I'll put them at C for now. I am interested to see this Regen Ghost versus Hollow Wife, I should say Die for Cat Girls team. This is Wednesday at 9 Eastern. Taco streaming that, twitch.tv. So that's El Taquito. Be interested to see how Regen Ghost does. This will be a good kind of benchmark game in terms of, like, are they a competitor? Are they maybe a mid-tier team? Or is there still more work to do? I don't know. We'll find out. B Southeast, my division. Full disclosure, I am on Deckard's Erudition. I slot them in... Well, I'll slot them in, I think, last, actually. So, let's see where that goes. First, right out of the gate, my favorites this season. Sorry. Yes, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Yes, Nexus Cats won Division C. Well, C East. Anyway, although I think they actually won the whole division as well. Yeah. That's right. They won their game against the C West. Yeah. All right. So, with that, I'm going to start with the teams that did very well, albeit in Northeast last season. Death and Delay and Die Gaming. Now, Death and Delay, there was a point... Well, sorry, they're not Die Gaming anymore. They're Emanon. But Emanon still has this logo which says Die Gaming. So, excuse me, princess. I'm slotting them in at A, and my rationale for that is both teams, I think, did really well last season. Boogan's Forever came on late, ended up finishing the strongest. But throughout the season, I would say that Die Gaming, Legal, and Death and Delay, like at the midpoint of the season, were really strong teams, and Die Gaming finished well. Death and Delay, about halfway through, looked like they were going to run away with Northeast. I mean, they were undefeated. They had beaten my team, Legal, so they had a pretty good lead. And then they dropped some really head-scratcher games. I think Death and Delay, as a roster, has the talent to win. All right, Kitten Cam it is. There she is. She's still a sleepy girl. Poor girl. Oh, she's had a little ear twitch. All right. Anyway, Death and Delay, I think they have the talent to be a top team. They just need to not have kind of that mid-season... Collapse is far too strong a word, but mid-season kind of just stumbles that they had. And I think they'll be one of the teams to beat. Taking a look at some of the newer teams. So first and foremost, Phoenix Rising Topaz. You may be thinking, oh, wait, Phoenix Rising Topaz. Well, Phoenix Rising Topaz, they're a heroic team. What are they doing down at B? This is a completely different roster. This is a completely, totally different roster than the last season. So they have a couple of players from Party Time, Bishop Mist and Poke Flute. I think they're good. You got Lothair from PRE, Shogun Misa from PRD. I think this team has the talent to contest for the top, but I need to see it first. There's just a lot of uncertainty right now, so I end up here on B. Phoenix Rising Citrine, another Phoenix Rising team that I'm also going to slot in at B. This team was actually originally like a lot of the players from Phoenix Rising Emerald 2 seasons ago, but they kind of came together with a few other players. Phoenix Rising Citrine. They did really well last season. I think they'll be able to transition pretty well here. From there, this is currently chasing Samuro is the CCS, and it's the only CCS team that didn't have a logo as of today. Slotting them in, and this is where I'm going to slot in, I think, some of the lower teams. I'm going to slot them in down here at D, along with STC and Beyond Gaming. Now, there's some good players on this team, and I want to be clear, but the issue is the players in particular, other than Metaho, I don't think have had a lot of success at the B level and above, and so because it's kind of a hodgepodge roster. It's a very different, by the way, it's a very different currently chasing Samuro than the Season 9 currently chasing Samuro. So Phoenix Rising and CCS just continuing to mix it, but there's some players from Limit Break in there who did well. You have Metaho, of course, from Can't Create Acronyms, Protectors of Ire, and plus 2 unknown players. Those unknown players, of course, a big factor. I can never predict how players that I don't know will do, but for now, slotting them in there. Trait value, just don't know anything about them. They're I have no idea C. Bad by Design was a team that had been doing well in Heroes Lounge. They came over to NGS, and they had a really bad season. I think they'll do better. So I think they'll... Yeah, that is correct, Wolf. And I have that in my notes elsewhere. But yeah, the point being that I just don't want people to see, currently chasing Samuro and think, oh, it must be the one I remember from 2 seasons ago. And then from there, Lionhouse's team... Snag is just a great tank. I mean, he's a really, really good tank. And I think having a good tank in this league is going to be enough to at least finish in the top half. Throwing my team kind of... So originally, this was what I had. I'll just tell you. This is what I had. But if you look at this, and my team being Deckard's Erudition right here, this is Bunker Funtime One Punch Monk. So originally, this is what I had. With my team being on C, I had to pick one of the teams to move up. I did pick my team just to adhere to my rule, but if I'm honest, yeah, I'd probably drop them in here. Oh, Snag isn't tanking. Well, in that case, there we go. Problem solved. No, I'm still going to leave them up here, B. We'll see what happens. All right. All right. I remember Snag doing good tanking in the past. We'll see what happens. We'll find out as we get into the season. I want to watch this Imanon, again, not Die Gaming, despite their logo. Imanon versus Trait Value. Okay, Kitten Cam. There she is. She's still sleeping, doing nothing. She's still a good girl. Whee! Yeah, she's just conked out. She doesn't want to wake up. So here's where I'm at with B Southeast. Again, without really seeing all the play, I do think Northeast is stronger top to bottom. One thing about BFT One Punch Monk is they do have a player, Frank Jukes, who has played with Sky 5, and he's a really good player. A lot of unknown on that team as well. I do know that BFT as a team likes to be very macro-focused, but One Punch Monk, when I look at the players, I think this is probably going to be a pretty dive, aggressive-oriented team. So we'll see. She's a very good kitty. We adopted her back in August as our 4th cat. I can stop anytime I want to. It's not an addiction. B West, going to pick up the pace a little bit here. So first bit of news in B West. There are 2 Cosmoses, and the Cosmos Redshift is the Cosmos from last season. Just want to make that clear out of the gate before we jump into it. Let's start just throwing out some of the new teams I don't know really anything about. That's going to be Grubby's Fan Club, and that is going to be Cat Daddies. There they go. From there, I had a tough time with B West. So B West, the top 4 teams last season, Lurk Patrol, Better Than Bots, Bronze 6, Uwu. Those top 4, there was a pretty big gap from 4 to 5 in my mind. A pretty big gap. And now all 4 of those teams are gone. So naturally that leads me to want to put Cosmos Redshift up here. I know that they had a couple roster changes. They lost Dark Knight, for example, they lost another player. I'm just consulting my notes here once again. Again, 140 some teams. I need notes. Where are those notes? There they are. Let's see. They lost Legacy as well, who went to Randy Newman, who we're going to talk about in just a second. Still, I have them up here. We'll see if that holds true or what occurs. The players they added, if I remember, don't really have NGS history, so that certainly adds a layer of unpredictability. I think Arrogant Nephilim is going to improve off their performance last season, where I think they were disappointed. I know I had higher expectations. I'm slotting them in at B. I'm going to put Spooky Ghost, who's been around B a while. For a long time, they were kind of a low-tier B team. Now, I'm actually going to say, you know what? They're gonna make a step this season. I think they're going to be a mid-tier B team, just based on some things I've seen. They have been there forever, but I think they're going to move up. I'm also going to put Soak Every Lane, another team I think was disappointed in their performance last season. But I'm kind of excited to see how they do. Where are my notes on? They did lose a player, Doobies, who was an Assassins player, but we'll see how they recover. From there, had a bit of trouble with this division because there's just so many unknown factors. Phoenix Rising Emerald is a team that kind of slipped into playoffs and then beat Lurk Patrol and then looked better. And I think, and I actually played against them at one point, although I had randos on my team, Sex Panda, so you can, you know, I had a tank who died 8 times, and Sex Panda messaged me after the game, "Lo, get wrecked." Like, it wasn't actually like that, but it was, you know, anyway. I guess I'm the healer. The tank shouldn't die 8 times. It's my fault. Anyway, I actually think they're going to take a step up. And the reason that I do this is because of that nasty message I got sent. I've decided to use my powers of being wrong to curse Phoenix Rising Emerald. So there we go. That's what you get. Ha! Enjoy your curse. Here's the thing. I so mean that. Anyway. I'm a child. Anyway, 2 teams moving up from C. I slot them in at C. Randy Newman, who didn't have a team logo, so I just Googled Randy Newman and got a picture of Randy Newman. And Resurgence of the Storm, they're slotting in at the C position. LaCroix Boy also slotting in there. LaCroix Boys is made up of couple of players from Witch Rhythm, which disbanded last season, although they were doing okay. You got Nullius, who I thought was a really good player for Cool Cats and Kittens. A couple brand new players. So I'll be able to actually tell you more about them soon, because I'll be able to see them play somewhat soon. By the way, match to watch, Randy Newman versus LaCroix Boy. The one I had a trouble with was Cosmos Blue Shift. And again, this is kind of the same issue as Dead Game players, where I haven't seen them play, but what data I have, it surprised me they were put in B West. That said, when I did the free agent combine, Korsakov PBE, and I hope I'm saying that right, or maybe it was just Corrosive PBE. I think it was just Corrosive PBE. Either way, had a really good game when I saw him. He made a lot of good plays. Still, though, without kind of... it's one of those, like, if I just go off the data, I have to put them here. But the data could be incredibly wrong. It's been wrong in the past. We'll see what happens. All right. C East now. And no, I didn't get any brackets for B. Very aggressive chat, but nobody wanted to make no one wanted to make a tier list. Coming on down to C East. So I'll just warn you ahead of time. C East is kind of the last division that I think I have a pretty good idea of things. D, I have a pretty rough idea of a lot of things. And E, fuck it, I have no goddamn motherfucking clue what is happening with E. And you'll see that when we get there. But we have like 87 CCS teams to slot in here in the C division. So let's go ahead and get started. Actually, I say that, and there's no CCS teams here in C East. But nonetheless, we'll go ahead and... First, House of Chez. One of the top teams last season. Surprised they didn't make the move up with Nexus Cats and Phoenix Rising Citrine. I'm going to slot them in at A tier. I really like this roster coming out from Trsg Can't Spell. Once again, another situation where it's a team with the same name as a previous team that is a completely different team. Not completely different. Crushinator's there. I really like some of the roster members of this team. Let me remind myself who they are. I just remember mentally making a note like, oh yeah, I really liked what they were doing here. Dude, like, just come to me. I'll give you so many, like, crap shit. That's just one right off the top of my head. I don't even know how you haven't come up with that one yet. Dwarf is there, yeah. So hang on, I got my notes. Actually, I didn't have my notes when I said that, but I have my notes now. So Trsg Can't Spell. We have mix of several players from BNC. So we got Michaelin from World Hunger Avoidance Team and Animaniacs. We got the Dwarf from Limit Break. We got Kavlor, who's from the Censor Bot doesn't like bad words. I'll have to correct that. Yeah, actually, don't post links though. That one I'm actually pretty insistent on. And you got Kavlor coming back. I think this is a good team. I think they're going to compete. Taking a step now, let's go the opposite direction. Let's talk about some of the teams moving up from D. So we got Frankfurters moving up from D. We got Phoenix Rising Onyx moving up from D. And we got Team TBD, who is... it's 3 players from Bad Matchmaker, so it's effectively moving up from D. So I slotted them all at D. I actually do think there was a pretty big gap in terms of quality of play between C East and D East last season. So I do think these teams are going to struggle. That said, we'll find out if I'm right or not. From there, Protectors of Ire and Heavy Slaps, 2 teams that finished in the lower half of C East last season. I suspect that may occur again, but, you know, they may move up. From there, U.S. Army Esports, a team that's been around Heroes Lounge for a bit. They've typically been like Division 2, Division 3. They've kind of been lower Division 2, mid Division 3. Tells me, I guess, to slot them in around the same place as Heavy Slaps, Protectors of Ire. Bunker Funtime, Zul'jin Distillery. I'm going to slot them both in at B. I think Zul'jin Distillery was disappointed in their own performance last season. I expect them to come back. Animaniacs, not the same Animaniacs that left B Northeast. They made playoffs as the 7th seed, but only Watson and Django are back. Hang on, just pulling up my notes here on Animaniacs. They did add the Duke from Better Than Bots, Yataru from Illa Dancing Queens, and Lion from AOL, as well as Duck Rogers, who had been on Amateur Opponents, I think, 2 seasons ago. I think it was season 9, and most recently on Wind Train, which was a team that finished in the bottom part of B West. Here's a name I haven't heard in a while, Almost Legends. I remember this team existing, and the players here, there's like 2 players who were on Almost Legends Ruby. The problem is that it's hard to actually find how they did, and you know, there's not a lot of certainty here, but I will say a couple players with NGS experience, that's going to help, right? Maybe slot them in here. A lot of uncertainty with that pick. Definitely want to watch Bunker Funtime versus Heavy Slaps. That is going to be twitch.tv. Eric with a K, not a C. Eric with a K, I believe, is the captain for Spooky Ghost, if I remember correctly. I'm like 99% sure of that, by the way. That is Tuesday at 9 Eastern. I was not the only one to do a C East tier list. Here is DeWitt from Zul'jin Distillery. My spell checker does not like DeWitt, but I do. House of Chez, he dropped in at S tier. Got kind of the same next 3 that I do in a different order. Bunker Funtime, XGD, Kelthos. He is bigger on Frankfurters than I am, but Animaniacs up there. He has Protective Iron, Heavy Slaps, both at C. He does have Onyx above D tier. Almost Legends Gold down in the D tier with U.S. Army Esports. And Team TBD, he has them down at the E tier. So we'll see how that shakes out. Jumping over now to C West. How are we doing on time? An hour? Okay, I am for about an hour and a half with this. So we're pick up the pace a little bit, certainly when we get to E, because I don't know what the fuck is going on down there. So it's not like there's much to talk about. Here's all the CCS teams, or at least several of them. First, we have the original CCS. Can't counterpick stupid. With a lot of the C West teams moving up, a lot of the top half of the teams moving up, I do think some of the teams returning who maybe finished kind of mid-tier to low-tier are due for good seasons. So you look at the team that I think that's returning that I think is going to do the best. I think that's Team Rainbow Strike Go. I think they're set for a really, really good season. From there, I'll throw into the B tier some other veteran teams like Can't Counterpick Stupid. That's a D team moving up. We'll talk about that in a second. Bloodbath and Beyond, that's a returning team I think will do well. Artemis, another returning team. Although I have them down here at C. My rationale just, they did struggle a lot last season. They need to clean up a lot of things. Got a ton of teams moving up, though, from... and hang on, I have to remind myself if this is Clouded Minds or Clouded Minds After Dark. Because they're both blue, because God forbid Smiley know at all what the fuck is going on. This is Clouded Minds After Dark. Okay, yeah, thank you, Weenus. I actually had a chance to play these guys. I think they have some things to work on, but I definitely think they have some really good team fight ability. For now, slating them in at C, but very interested to see how they move up. Some other teams moving up. Regen Divine. They actually aren't the same Regen Divine. They picked up 3 players from, I want to say it was Lightly Salted? It was 3 players from another D roster. Lightly Salted, yeah, that was it. So, slotting them at C, if it were the same roster, they did pretty well. I may have seen way to see them to be. Can't Connect Stuns, they have them at C. I thought they had a really good season last season. Banshee, this is a weird one. This is a team moving up from D East who finished in the lower half, but they made pretty significant roster changes. I've had a chance to play them. I think they're pretty good. I think they're going to do fairly well. And then Cool Cats and Kittens, a team that I think has kind of made the climb with Team Rainbow Strike Go, like from, D to now doing pretty well in C last season to now I think they could take that next step. I actually played with moving them up here, but for now, keeping them B tier just because I do think Trsg, it's worth mentioning that I think they're, in my mind, a cut above the rest. Roll 1. I really like these guys. These are great guys. They have struggled a lot in B West. The last couple seasons, they've been very low tier teams. And I got to give them all the kudos in the world for sticking it out. Because, man, not a lot of teams do that when they're losing. That said, even though they're moving down from a higher division, until they fix some of these fundamental flaws that kind of keep coming up, their inability to kind of end games and general just kind of wonkiness, until they get that consistency, I got to slot them in at C. Almost Legends Obsidian, know nothing about them. The only reason that Almost Legends Obsidian is not at D is because their MMR, and I talked about this before, is kind of middle of the pack, if not slightly above average for all of C. Whereas 210 Blackman Street, again, knowing nothing about the team, it's a new team, but the lowest MMR by a pretty significant margin, both in terms of Storm League rank and in terms of Heroes Profile MMR. Although there's not a lot of good data on this team, since there's not a lot of Storm League play. So, who knows? I could be completely wrong on them, but that's where I'm at. I was not the only one to do C West. Here we go. C West. This is from Beowulf from Cool Cats and Kittens. He's a lot higher on roll 1 than I am, but also has that big faith in Trsg. We had, and this is weird, we have the same C tier. And I swear I made this without looking at it, other than roll 1, and he has roll 1 a lot higher, and he has Team Banshee down here. But, see what happens. Ooh, they beat you in scrims. Okay, well, I'll keep that in mind. Without, again, it's just, Even Almost Legends Obsidian, I didn't see any of the players on previous Almost Legends teams, albeit much of that is lost to the sands of time, with a lot of the fallout we saw in Season 5, losing a lot of previous data. But also, 210 Blackman Street down here, so we'll see how that goes. D East. I definitely need my notes for this, sorry. Pulling up my D notes. All right. So one thing to note is right out of the gate with D East, we can talk about some of the teams that are returning. I think Probius Strikes Back has, let me remind myself their roster change. Yeah, Alan Hicks from Lubu joined the team. Alan Hicks are a really good player. I think going to supplement them well. I think that puts them in A tier. Free Hong Kong doing extremely well in Heroes Lounge. Going to drop them here. Okay, I have to ask this question because, and I need to go full screen for this because this is, I swear to God, there has, in my mind, been a team before called Can't Cleanse Salt. I am did I Mandela affect myself? Is this the first time a team called Can't Cleanse Salt has existed in NGS? Because, like, I think, I'm pretty sure I've Mandela affected myself on this. I'm, like, so convinced that team name has existed before. And I'm wrong, I'm figuring out. Because you don't know how many... I spent more time trying to research when Can't Cleanse Salt played in NGS than I did doing any other prep today. Which is maybe obvious, because admittedly the show's not going too great, right? But, okay. So I did Mandela affect myself. Got it. Good to know. Anyway, regardless, they were all new players. Didn't really know anything about them. Couple of teams like that. Brick House also dropping in at the C tier. Murder Moratorium. They do have Dontris from Death and Delay. And I did cast them in the Cupid's Coliseum. I think it was against Phoenix Rising Citrine. First game, they were pretty close. Second game, they did lose. Still dropping them here. I do know that they were almost C, but again, it's one of those, like, just because they were almost C, that doesn't necessarily mean they belong there. Again, I'm basing this largely off just uncertainty. Sorry, I needed some beer. Anyway. Devil's Rejects, pretty significant roster changes. The other team that had really significant roster changes is Poseidon. I think it only actually has one player in common from last season. All right, Kitten Cam. There she is. I think they only have one player in common, and they're actually doing really well in Heroes Lounge. Let me remind myself where they are right now. If I can find them. Okay, there they are. Yeah, they were. It's like they were last place in E last season. So you know, how are they moving up to D East? Well, it's massive roster changes. They're currently third in Heroes Lounge Division 4. So I'm gonna drop them there. Wait till 10. This is actually Do It Right, which is a team that hasn't been around for a while. Took me a while to place them as well because I'm like, wait a minute, Do It Right. Seen them before. Way back in Season 7. Kind of a reunion roster here. They finished 6th in C East in Season 7. How well that translates, I don't know. A lot of uncertainty, but I think it bodes well. So wait till 10. They're slotting in at B. Rise and Grind. Good season. Almost put them on the A. Set them on the B instead because I think I decided to put Hello Kitty Action Squad on A. Just a mix of... they're doing well. 6th place currently in Heroes Lounge Division 3, which is rather good. And frankly, I just like their team. By the way, it took me so long to make this a PNG, but isn't it worth it? Doesn't it look just lovely as a PNG? Anyway, there we go. And then last two teams I did slot in at the D tier. So Ice Crown Citadel is moving up from E, and they added 2 players from Yavapai. 2 players who've been there a while, like Andre and that, but I still don't know. I was kind of, again, it's one of those, like, I looked at it, and I looked at the players and their history, and I thought, like, what? So I was kind of surprised to see that. Team Ionic has Aura Luna from Yavapai, as well as Ragu from Team Mana Frenzy, or aka Maple Syrup Bandits. I am gonna not at all remotely miss Yavapai because of their names. That's actually the entire reason I won't miss them. Alright. From there, here we go. D East. This is from Ice, from Hello Kitty Action Squad. So look at the arrogance. Look at this arrogance. Look at it. Look at the arrogance. Everyone beat this team. How dare they be so arrogant? Kappa. No. No, I do think they're a good team, and I do think that's reasonable, but still sliding themselves in at A. FC Hong Kong also up there. Probia Strikes Back also up there. They do have Rise and Grind up here at A. I should note, we have pretty similar tiers. The only difference is they put Wait Till 10 down at C. Could be just from uncertainty, for example. Overall, fairly similar. D West, this is Clouded Minds. That one I am certain of. This is Clouded Minds. You don't go into the season thinking I go into the season thinking I'm gonna fuck something up royally for my team. That way, when it happens, I know it has occurred. Anyway, Clouded Minds. So Waiting on Cherry is a team that is kind of like a reunion team here. I have a lot of faith in them. I think they're gonna do really well. They did really well the last time they were together as a team. I have them at A. Clouded Minds, despite kind of some roster changes, there's been a little bit of like a split of some players going to Clouded Minds after Dark and Clouded Minds. I still like the roster changes that were made. I really like that they added Traxix, I believe, a really good offlane player. Tough Murky to play against. I mean that incredibly seriously. Not a hint of irony in there at all. From there, a couple of D West teams returning that were kind of mid-tier. You got Puns Upon a Time. Maximum Thrust was Nerf the Smurfs. They're also slotting in at this B space. They were pretty much Nerf the Smurfs anyway. Trsg Knights, they kind of started to do okay late in the season, and I thought, like, oh, they must be getting better. And I kind of looked at it, and I think it was just the schedule at the end of the season favored them because their schedule was super front-loaded. So I still have them slotted down at the C tier. Core Bouncers, Division E champions, they're moving up. I'm going to put them in at least at B. Vibe Check, which I just hate the word vibe in general. Got a couple players from Yavapai, but Giggle Schmack from Team Training Wheels, really good assassin. I like having Giggle Schmack there to do a bit of good work. Fade to Black is a new team I know nothing about. Seeded based on MMR, they were among the lowest MMR. Same with Private Potato. Again, don't know anything about them. Just basing it off what data I do have, which is just MMR data. So that's all I got. Meta picks, I didn't really know where to slot them. Didn't know much about them. What I did know about meta picks was that I don't have my notes in front of me. They are a lower MMR, but they do have Lumpico, who was on 10 armor for a long time. So there it is. Yeah, apparently this is a potato. And not just that, it is a very low-ranking potato in the potato army. This is not even commissioned officer potato. It's private potato. Team Crap Yourself. What notes do I have on them? Because I think I found something about them, but not much. I'm trying to find them, but it's a bit hard to do when I'm dyslexic. Yeah, they have Yatre, Y-A-T-R-E. You tell me how to pronounce it. In either case, they have them from heavy slash, but otherwise it's new players. So again, uncertainty. Slot them in at C. Lowered expectations. New team. Slotting them in at C. That's where I'm at with D West. Did a lot better here in terms of confidence than last season. Last season, of the teams in D West, 9 of them were mostly new players. So that was a nightmare last season trying to figure it out. Speaking of nightmares to figure out, hi, E East. I'm going to be honest. I need a minute. We're getting into E. I think here's how we're going to do E. I'm just going to show you what I have. And I'm not going to explain any of it because chances are I have no explanation. And that is, that's what we're going to do. Because I don't know. So, with that, I'll say a little bit. FFTP, they're coming back. They had a decent season in E last season, kind of mid-tier. I'll go ahead and slot them in at B. You're going to notice something emerge pretty quick in terms of information, like where I'm placing these E teams. We have Regen Rebel, a new team, but it does have Carve from Regen Anomaly. Because of their MMR, I ended up slotting them in at B, but I don't really have, like, confidence in that, I would say. I just did it. You have Last Dance, which is Freedonia. That's their name now. They finished, I think, 9th, but I still slot them in at B just because they're returning. They have some experience. The Baddest Dudes, another returning team. They did make playoffs for E, dropping them into the B tier. Let me see. Do I have anything on? Yeah. So then from there, it's hard to really even say what I know here. There's a couple players from Phoenix Rising Amethyst here, so I put them lower because Amethyst has always struggled. Car Crash Sounds, I think just, again, brand new roster. I don't know anything about it. I ended up dropping them down here. Just MMR. They're the second lowest team in MMR in E East. Macro Machines, higher MMR. That's all I know about them. They're a new team. Born to Shine is on Souls in... well, there's Cis, because there's Death and Delay, which is Dad. Martyrs of Moratorium, which is Mom. This team is Cis. No, so I'm saying there were some players who are on Sapphire now who were on Amethyst before. This is Sapphire, but they were a couple players on Amethyst, and Amethyst, we'll say, didn't do very well. So that's enough for me to... I have to put them on one side of this line, because the rest of the teams are going right here. Behold, I have no clue what to do with this. Lot of new faces here, a lot of new players I haven't seen before. Here's where I'm at. I kind of want to see this game, FFTP versus Souls in Slow-Mo. We'll see what happens when that gets scheduled. Okay, so first I'm just going to say it. E-West, it's a double round robin division. There's a lot of new teams. The only thing that I thought when I first saw this was, and I apologize, this is based strictly on their history, Phoenix Rising Amethyst is going to go to D. They've been at the bottom for a couple seasons. I know they're still doing roster changes, but it's just, I kind of have to see a change before I make it. New teams I know nothing about. Wood League Express, Mosley and the Arcanauts. Arcanauts, that's it. And then Flint Tropics. I don't know any... Mosley and the Arcanauts, there was something I had on them. Where was it? This is why there's too many fucking teams. I can't keep track of it all. And even finding it in my notes is tricky. Oh, they have Rusty from Respect the Goose. That's it. I found it. They have Rusty from Respect the Goose. So I actually did move them up to B because I have someone who's played at kind of higher tier. Maybe that helps them out. And then Deep Fried Ming Balls. So I want to talk about the rivalry that's going to emerge between these two teams. Bull Moose Party and Liquid Metal. So Bull Moose Party and Liquid Metal both had the predominant members of their team on Bull Moose Party last season. Now, to me, it is absolutely historically hilarious that the team Bull Moose Party had a schism when historically the Bull Moose Party was the result of a schism. And if you don't get that, that's fine. I have no life, I'm a nerd. I found it funny. Anyway, because they have experience, I slotted them in at B. But damn right I want to see this match between former teammates here, between Bull Moose Party and Liquid Metal. Last I checked, hadn't been scheduled yet. So, that is your final tier list. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do a run-through of all the tier lists I have in 30 seconds. That way someone can clip this and they can just upload it and that's fine. So here it is starting now. That's Storm. That's Heroic. That's Nexus. That's A East. That's A West. That's B Northeast. B Southeast. B West. C East. C West. D East. D West, and then E East, and E West. So there you go. That is the starting tier list. And we will look back and realize how wrong they were, probably sooner rather than later. And that will bring us to the end of our show. Next week on the show, we're going to update our tier list. We're going to talk about the top 5 plays of the week. So when you go to upload your results on the Nexus Gaming Series website, you can upload a play of the game. Get a Twitch clip. If you weren't streamed, you can still make a recording, upload it to Twitch or YouTube either, and submit that link as a play of the game. I go through the plays of the game that were submitted by you, the players, to the NGS website to pick my top 5, and I will do it this week. So check that out. When you go to upload your matches, we're gonna do a retrospective. I'm gonna look back. You may look at where I ranked your team this week and be like, that motherfucking bald piece of shit. This is why we have the mature audience filter, by the way. That motherfucking bald piece of shit. He sucks. He's horrible. I'm never gonna watch. I'm gonna go back and show you where I was wrong last season, so you can realize that me being wrong is not a new phenomenon, and it's not just because I hate your team. Maybe a little. Maybe a little. From there, I'm going to actually not have the first batch of simulation. Sorry. That will come week 2. So next week, we're just going to update tier lists, take a look at what happened. We're going to do a retrospective of my initial power rankings from Season 10 and where those teams ended up. And then finally, we're going to do top 5 plays. And I will see you all then. Thank you all so much, so very, very much for watching. This has been 323 Weekly. Take care.